everybody. Welcome to the group chat by Footy Accumulators, sponsored by Betfair, with me, Will Perry, and Mr. Alan McInally. Alan,
Hi, guys.
Football. It's gone crackers. But we're 4 match weeks in. What is going on? We've had 144 goals, right?
Oh, man.
4 match weeks. And it's not even 4 match weeks, is it? Because some teams haven't played 4 games. So it's 3.8 match weeks. 144 goals. 25 of them came on Sunday. Another 41 goals over the weekend. We nearly broke the record again, which is now 44 goals for a match week.
Yeah.
What genuinely are you putting this all down to? Is there a connection between having no fans and players just being a little more relaxed, playing a pass that they wouldn't pass, not having that adrenaline without a crowd, being, a little bit more, I don't know, less gung-ho?
I think it's a bit of everything, Will, genuinely. Obviously, we can talk about the handball and the penalties that have been given is added to the total a little bit. And they'll kind of hopefully tweak that law and that'll die down certainly. But I do think the no fan thing is I mean, if you go 3-0 down and the fans are on your back, you might manage to keep it 3-0 and they sneak one at 3-1. But the teams seem to be just capitulating and give it up. Well, that's the 3 points gone. Who cares? The other thing is that there is that idea of great football. Let's pass it out from the back, even though we're getting really pressed in and we make a mistake and you give a goal away and you're like, right, let's not do that again. Let's learn from that mistake. And nobody seems to be doing it because they're like, let's pass out from the back. Let's look like Brazil in 1970. And you're like, some teams can't do it. They want to do it, but look at the press that people are putting on them and people are getting caught. They're turning the ball over and we're getting more goals. So it's a bit of everything. Having said that, to watch all the goals going in the other night, that was incredible with the deflections and the mistakes, etc. It really has been crazy, bud.
Is it great? Or do we have to suddenly question defending more than we ever have done in the Premier League? I mean, it is good that we haven't had, out of all these games so far, Al, we haven't had one goalless draw in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I heard a great quote the other day, and in my head immediately I was like, I don't think I'd be signing him for that. It was a defender, not with the turn about a goalkeeper. He said he's really good with his feet and could pass the ball, to defenders. And I went, is he any good with a pair of gloves on? Who cares if he can pass the ball? His job's to catch it, save it, and tip it over the bar. I'm like, I think your philosophy is wonderful, but you're coming from the wrong direction. I want a right back to kick the ball with his right foot. I want a left back to kick the ball with his left foot. And I want 2 centre-halves to header it and tackle and sense danger. Not like anything else that you think might be a great idea. If the goalkeeper gets sent off, the centre half could go in goals. But who cares? Listen, buy a defender that can defend. That would help you.
Yeah. Do you think this pattern is going to continue, especially if we don't have crowds in and potentially till the end of the season, or is it just a fad?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it looks as though teams are certainly pretty aggressive at the moment by going and like I said, pressing the ball and trying to get the ball in the box for goals. I mean, Everton have been absolutely fantastic. So Spurs the other day, and Liverpool will continue to do what they do. The other night there, I must admit, it was certainly a bit of a rock and put them on the back foot, but they'll obviously be back with the players that they've got, etc. And Spurs, for goodness sake, they look fantastic. But there's a couple of teams that continue to concede goals and look a mile off the pace, and it looks as though that will continue.
Yeah, I mean, crazy result at Villa Park, and I was at Old Trafford to watch that. Which,
were you at that game?
I'll tell you what, the front row seat for that one. That was an interesting one to be at as a City fan.
Amazing.
Look, no, on a serious note, and there's a lot of Manchester United fans who keep an eye on what we do on Twitter and so on.
Yeah,
I find, I don't know about you, Al, I find it astonishing and I find it confusing that Manchester United have become a club that, I'm not going to say panic, because there may well have been a strategy to their transfer window, but the fact that things are done so late on for Manchester United was never the case in the days of Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill. They had a strategy. They sat down. They picked out their targets. They were Manchester United. They could go and get who they wanted as long as they paid the right price. One, they're not paying the right prices, or they're not willing to pay enough money. If it's even a case of quibbling over 10 million quid for Jadon Sancho, well, they got 13 million pounds back for Chris Smalling, who went to Roma. So you take, another 13 off that 100 and whatever that they wanted. If they wanted Jadon Sancho, they could have gone and got him, is my point. Jadon Sancho could now have another dream season at Dortmund and be worth £200 million, even by January, if not next summer, and then they will not get him because Real Madrid will come in, Barcelona will come in. Who knows? Manchester City may go, let's have this kid back. So they may have missed their man. But my question to you, Al, is why are Manchester United seemingly not able to have a successful transfer window?
I think there's a couple of things I'm going to answer the question with. I think the ditheredness of Manchester United by not paying the money that Dortmund wanted for a player that apparently you wanted, pay the money. In fact, Manchester United are so big, they should say, how much did you want? 109? Hey, here's 110. Take $1 million on us. Thanks very much. I don't understand why, because that's what would have happened under Sir Alex. The fact that they don't want to spend the money because they're giving it in these trying times, who cares about the trying times? If you want the boy, pay the money. Now, there is no way. I'm going to ask you a question actually back. Do you think Cavani would have come to Manchester United had they been as A, aggressive and B, assertive in getting teams and players that they wanted? No chance.
No,
of course he wouldn't. So now, I think you used the words of desperation for Manchester United. So I was told that he wanted £1 million a month, so $250 a week. Now, even if he's getting 200 a week, 800,000 a month for Cavani, I don't even think they wanted to do that. I think they've been forced into doing this, Manchester United. Genuinely, I do. And you know, I love Cavani. I think he's different class, and he is a grafter, and he will work for the team, and he might be a great signing. The point being, Manchester United shouldn't be hanging on Sky Television on deadline day, giving it. Is Jadon Sancho going to come? Dortmund told them a month ago, 2 months ago, he's not moving now. So just drop it and try and get someone else. And then I hear that Smalling goes to Roma. I'm like, for £15 million or euros, or 18 million with add-ons. Because Smalling, who thinks he was obviously done hard done to by Manchester United. He's obviously not happy, but he's probably better than 3 or 4 of the centre-halves they've got. I just don't get it, Will. And the policy that they have of buying and selling players is just all over the place. I think if MD needed an ex-football player with huge ties to Manchester United, who felt the way Man United players, fans want them to feel about the football club, I think they would have a director of football, not Woodward and not the Glaziers. And I don't know if that is the correct way to go down the line, because it's probably going to be better than the one that's happening just now, because I've never known the pessimism round Old Trafford or by fans at the moment with their transfer policy. It's amazing.
Well, look, Edwin van der Sar has been crying out saying he'd love to do that role, and he's the CEO at Ajax, and he'd be perfect for it, you'd imagine. But there's obviously this direct link between Ed Woodward, who's not just a business, colleague of the Glazers, but is a friend of them and is trusted by them, and he's the man, and that's how it is. Just final on Woodward and Solskjaer then. If you were to play the blame game, whose fault is it that they have a window? They still signed 4 players on deadline day. We'll get into that.
Yeah, they did.
Whose fault is it that they're not getting their number one targets? Because you'd imagine, you tell me how it works in a football club. I'm thinking that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's not just a head coach, he's the manager of Manchester United. Yeah. He would draw up a list, or he would be presented a list by his scouting team and say, this is who we want. He may well say, look, I want Jadon Sancho. I don't care who else we get in this window. I want Jadon Sancho from Dortmund. Then goes to Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward obviously has to get the check signed by the owners, but is it as simple as that? So is it a case of they have Michael Judge, who's the chief negotiator in London? He's the chief negotiator. He goes into a room and he negotiates. So essentially, he's failed to negotiate this deal. But then who do we blame? Who do those Manchester United fans blame after all of this? Because take away the 6-1 defeat against Spurs. So let's pretend that didn't happen, because Ollie's getting a lot of stuff coming his way because of that.
Yeah.
But who do we blame in the blame game for them not getting their targets?
Well, in that little rant, which was very good, by the way, you actually answered the question. Mm-hmm. Who signs the check? As far as I was concerned, the agent's fee was agreed. Sancho's wages were agreed. The only thing that couldn't be agreed was the money Manchester United had to pay Dortmund. And Dortmund, incidentally, had agreed to say, if you give us 109 million, He's a Manchester United player.
Mm.
So the blame falls absolutely squarely on the Glaziers and Woodward combined, if they're that close, because they're the one that you're saying, Judge, who goes and discusses terms. Apparently, he did his job. He ain't signing the cheque. And there is no question that Ollie went to Woodward and said, we'll take Sancho, he's different class. I want Sancho. And then he wasn't delivered because Manchester United wouldn't pay an extra £11 million. 11 million, which you rightly said they got for Chris Smalling, who shouldn't have been let to go from Manchester United. So for me, it's got to be Woodward. It's got to be Woodward. Because if he's the one that carries the checkbook around, then he could have made the decision that Sancho, who, whether he plays for England or not this weekend, in the next game would be playing for Manchester United. It's just astonishing. And we're talking about the biggest club in the world. And now, actually, every time somebody says the biggest club in the world, even Manchester United fans are giving it, no, we're not. We're a bumbling mess. It's a disaster. We're making ourselves look amateurish when we should be at the forefront to say, by the way, you're coming to Manchester United, and people say, oh, Man United, okay, I'll go there. That's not the case anymore. It's just simply not the case. I don't blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Yeah. Is it still a failure then, the window that they've had? Because they did sign those 4 players on deadline day. They brought in Edinson Cavani. They brought in Traore, who's going to arrive in January. Palestri. And of course, Alex Telles is a decent left back. He's just been called up to the Brazil squad. He plays left back for Porto. Yeah. Is that still a bad window? Forget Jadon Sancho.
Well, Cavani's different class, and Telles hopefully will be very good. Forget about the kids they've brought in, because that's a future thing. They're not going to go into the first team; they're going into the academy. But good for Manchester United to have such a system that they've gone out and got some really good kids. So what you're saying is the biggest club in the world, who are not in a great place at the moment, but do have a fabulous player in Fernandes, a fabulous player in Pogba, a fabulous player in Rashford, and they bring in Cavani and they bring in a fullback. No, not for me. That isn't a good window for Manchester United. Because to be quite honest with you, to explain why I think it's not been a good window, because I don't think they've addressed the problems that they have in the team. That's the problem.
Yeah, which is a centre back, the Manchester United.
Which is a centre back, or whether you just go 2 centre backs. 80 million for Maguire was a mistake, but I don't think it is, because I think you need someone alongside him, and I think Maguire would be fantastic, because the partnerships they've got at the moment are certainly not working. And I do think the experience that Smalling had in Italy would have made him a better player in the Premier Division if he'd stayed at Manchester United.
Yeah, look, the flip side to this argument, and to defend the Glazers, is that they did spend a world record fee of 80+ million quid on Harry Maguire, right? Was it the right decision? It looked like it was when they signed him, and certainly, towards the end of lockdown and, the end of the season, they were playing well, weren't they? 14 games unbeaten. They looked like they were going to be
really well
Champions League contenders at the beginning of this season. So they have spent big money on him. They spent big money under Jose Mourinho on Eric Bailly. They spent big money on Luke Shaw. And I know this goes back a while and transfers need updating and so on, but they also spent a lot of money on Bruno Fernandes. They spent serious cash.
Hang on a minute. Bruno Fernandes could have been a Manchester United player 7 months prior to when they eventually decided to get him, for God's sake.
Because they wouldn't pay the cash.
Because they wouldn't pay the money. Again, there's a problem.
They still spent 90-odd million quid on Paul Pogba. I'm just going through off the top of my head here. There's a lot of money in that squad that has been spent. It's not a case of the Glazers holding back the checkbook. Whether it's been spent in the right areas, £50 million on Wan-Bissaka. We're already up to a £500 million team that's been spent over the last, some of it under Mourinho, granted, and some of it under going managers before that to Moyes. But that's a lot of cash. Anyway, look, let's talk about Edinson Cavani, because I know you're a big fan. 33 years old now, right? The negative side of it, he hasn't played any football competitively since March. He's been available since, June. Someone could have signed him in June. He could have been, if Manchester United wanted Edinson Cavani from day dot, and I know you said that wasn't the case because he was a sort of last-minute decision. So there's 2 things here, aren't there? If they wanted him, they could have signed him in June. They could have got him training. He could have been match fit and ready to go. And, even if he didn't start the season, he could have been ready to go now after the international break. Absolutely. Also, why has no one else signed Edinson Cavani?
Money, wages. The fact that he's 33 is another reason. I think Cavani's going to be a really good hit. I really do. I think he'll score goals. But I think more importantly, I think his team play will be different class, because Actually, I had a bit of criticism against him playing in a team like PSG, and he didn't get a lot of goals. Well, that's because Neymar and Mbappe got them all, and he you know, God knows how many he slipped into areas to help the team. I like him because he's not an old-fashioned centre forward. He just gives me everything he's got. I never see him coming off without him sweating and look as though he's been in a 90-minute game. I think that, listen, if you can get a football player now that's conscientious enough, when you get a contract, you're like that, okay, yeah, sign that. Okay, what am I getting? 100 grand a week. Okay, all I want you to do is when the referee blows a whistle, give me everything you've got until the game finishes. And there's players right now you can point your finger at and give it. I asked you to do that for me. You wanted 100 grand a week and everybody's delighted. You haven't given me what you said you would give me when you signed the contract. And I don't think they'll be able to say that to Cavani, because I think they'll give him that. And I think that's what Man United as well need. A little bit of a, you know, I don't know, just pick them up by the bootstraps a bit. The whole thing seems flat. I mean, Pogba's a great player. Fernandes is a great player. But everybody seems to be out of form at the same time, and it's weird. And even Cavani coming in might give them the lift they want. But there is no way he was first choice. And I think they were pushed into a corner to buy him. Why did MDL not take him? It's got to be the money and got to be his age. Simple as that. Otherwise, surely there was other teams in Europe that would have taken Edinson Cavani.
Look, and if he has the same impact, I'm just thinking of that Ibrahimovic signing, and Ibrahimovic was, you know, similar sort of age when he arrived under Mourinho.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the instant impact. You know, those first 3, 4, 5 months, he was brilliant, and it wasn't just on the pitch; it was what he had in the dressing room and so on, and the experience of Edinson Cavani.
Do you know what might be big, Will? And I don't know if this is a little thing psychologically. I think Cavani looks at Manchester United and thinks of Manchester United as a team under Alex Ferguson, who carry the name, who carry the weight of the biggest club in the world, who he realises he's played against. This is a global team.
He's got to turn the plane around then, hasn't he?
Well, no. In his head, I think he still thinks they are. Whereas I think some of the younger players coming up now have such a choice that Manchester United ain't their first choice. They ain't the global team that they maybe think they are, because there is such, you know, the world is that bit smaller and there's so many more teams, not necessarily bigger than Manchester United, but seem to be doing better and bigger than Manchester United. And maybe that's the reason why Cavani has come out and said, you know, this is iconic.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many more times, you know, Man United will be able to use the weight of their name if they don't have the success that the fans expect.
Yeah, look, you mentioned people having a pop at him not scoring as many goals as they thought he would at PSG, and that's why, you know, they let him go in the end. His goal to game ratio still in his career is unbelievable. He's had, off the top of my head, over 400 games in his career and over 200 goals. So it's nearly 1 in 2, which is astonishing. Where is he going to play? Is he going to start, Al? And if he does, who misses out? Greenwood, does he have to play on the right there and it's still Rashford and Martial? You know, is he a guaranteed starter?
That would be a one. That's a really good question. Personally, I would, if he's fit, he starts for me. I think it might be Martial that falls on the sword, I'm afraid, because I think that Rashford has carried Manchester United for the last year and a half on his back, and I think he's really struggled with it in the last 6 months. I think he's different class. The boy Greenwood, I was telling everybody, because my mate's a huge Man United fan and used to go and watch Greenwood playing at Macclesfield, and he was like, you've got to see this lad, Al. He's unbelievable. So I've known about Greenwood for 3 years, for goodness sake. And the fact that he's given an opportunity, you can see that he'll score goals. I would like him to see Rashford up top. The only problem is Greenwood's better as a number 9 in the box. That's where he's the best at. I think Martial might be the one that might have to pave way for Cavani, because I think if Cavani's fit and he's that good and he's that experienced, I don't think you can't not start Cavani, genuinely. There'll be games, I suppose, people say he's 33. Will he play 5 games in a row? Well, Ibrahimovic played 5 games in a row. And if he's such a specimen that you mentioned all these games he's played, well, injuries hopefully not a problem, and I hope I haven't, you know, bewitched him there when he picks up an injury early on. He seems to be fine, and maybe the more games he plays, the fitter he becomes, the better he is, Cavani. Doesn't seem to be a problem when he was at PSG.
Look, last one on Manchester United and Cavani. Does Edinson Cavani get into double-figure goals in the Premier League this season?
Oh, he should be 1 to 5. Definitely. Double figures, not a problem. Player is fantastic. And I think he's going to prove a lot of people that think Oh no, we've signed a 33-year-old old guy. Don't worry about it, Man United. He's going to be brilliant.
Right, let's talk about other people's windows. Who do you think has had the best transfer window? It was the longest transfer window in history. It was 10 weeks because of obviously the virus and everything that's happened.
Yeah.
Who's had the best transfer window in the Premier League, McInally?
My old team are the good. Not because they beat Liverpool, was it 7-2? Whatever the score was.
Well, that's the first one that's springing. Not that I'm asking you, but that was in the back of my head, Aston Villa, because I think when we talk about Manchester United and strategy and so on, you've got Aston Villa, who've sat down with Purslow and the Spanish director of football's name, who I can't remember. They've sat down with Dean Smith. They've clearly addressed the areas that they needed players. You know, Matty Cash is a clever signing, isn't it?
Very good.
Right back to El Ghazi because he's a right back. He's a defender rather than a wing back.
Hello.
Go on.
Well, I've said to you, when you're looking at somebody, you're not buying a goalkeeper because he can cross the ball into the box. They're buying Matty Cash because he's the defender and will smell a bit of danger, and all of a sudden you look a little bit more rock solid there. Plus, Ezra Konsa was playing right back. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but Ezra Konsa, I was telling everybody when he was at Brentford, he'll play for England.
Yeah.
There you go. He'll play for England.
Yeah.
And that's where he should be in the centre defence with Mings. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. I'm interrupting you because I asked you the question and I've kind of answered mine, which is selfish of me. But I'm just thinking out loud. Martinez, fantastic signing. He's they've sorted it. All right, they've got Tom Heaton as a backup when they come back as well. Two great goalkeepers. Ross Barkley on loan. You know, who looks like, all right, he's an Evertonian who's just thrashed Liverpool by 7-2.
Yeah.
He's going to always love that. But, you know, he's going to play in that 10 role. He's going to get assists. He's going to open up Jack Grealish. And I'm not a Villa fan. I'm sounding like a Villa fan now. You know, Bertrand Traore as well. They are some decent signings. And Ollie Watkins, that you've seen a lot of him at Brentford. But to come in to score his perfect hat-trick against the champions is ridiculous. And he looks like he could bang in 15, 20 goals this season in the Prem. Look, I'm putting words into your mouth. I think Villa have had a good one. What about you?
No, you're not. Well, put it this way. I saw 3 people on the TV giving it, Ollie Watkins. Now they're Ollie Watkins. I was live on the television a year and a half ago when Brentford played West Brom and said to Jeff Stelling, I'm watching a Premier Division striker. He's too good for the Championship, and Ollie Watkins. And all I'm seeing here now is, any good Ollie Watkins? Some people just don't know players. And all of a sudden they come on the scene and they're like, any good? It's a great signing. Signing by my old team.
Just on Watkins, Al, I wanted to ask you because I was listening to Clinton Morrison, who played with Ollie Watkins at Exeter. And he was saying that when he first came on the scene, obviously before he went to Brentford, he was playing as a left back. And he was just like, I don't want to be a left back. And then he's kind of moved him up and he played on the left wing, played on the right wing. And that's where he arrived at Brentford, didn't he, as a right winger? And they only moved him central last season and he ends up getting that ridiculous goal record in the Championship. Is he a future England striker? Do you see this kid? I mean, he's so young now. Do you see him as a future England number 9? Well,
hopefully if he keeps going in that trajectory, of course he will. I mean, he'll be looking at, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and everybody else that are playing for England, or that probably will be playing for England, and think, that's my target. That's where I've got to be. And all he has to do is, hopefully, with the players in and around him, keep, shooting the ball into the back of the net for Aston Villa. And it's only a matter of time, hopefully, if he becomes an England manager. I mean, I've really built him up there, but I didn't mention England. There's a bit of, water to come under the bridge before he maybe gets to that point. But we're talking about, did Villa have a good transfer window? I think in Watkins and Traore and getting Barkley in and getting Cash, and keeping Grealish has been a good window. Absolutely it has. Whether or not he'll be an England striker, I'd like to think he will, because at the moment in time, he's showing all the signs that he knows where the back of the net is, and he works hard. You need to work really hard for your team. And I think he does that, Ollie Watkins. He's a good football player, and he's doing everything right at the moment. And I think Villa have had a really good window for the reason that you said. They've specified places in the team that they weren't strong in, and they're much stronger now. And it proves the way they're playing and the way the results are going.
Go on. So I've said Villa. I mean, look, you could say there'll be Tottenham fans watching this going, we've had an unbelievable window.
Bale coming in.
Sergio Reguilon, bringing in, Carlos Vinicius as a backup striker who's willing to sit on the bench, but it's a proven goal scorer in Europe for Benfica. I'm missing players off the list already from a Tottenham point of view. But they've signed some players. You could say, look, even Manchester City have addressed an area nearly lost Eric Garcia to Barcelona. That looks inevitable, which is why they brought in Ruben Diaz for 60-odd million quid from Benfica, Nathan Ake as well. I mean, look, the obvious one we're not saying is Everton. What a window Everton had. Arguably as good as Everton's, if not better. As good as Villa's, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to mention Everton because I think they've had the best, right? So let's just put that one out right now, because they were going nowhere, by the way, nowhere until Ancelotti comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, Southampton. I'm looking at Spurs, and Spurs have had a great window. Oh my God, even getting Bale and Vinicius, like you said, etc., etc. West Ham, not so sure. I'm just going through the team. Sorry, Newcastle. Hendrick, Wilson, Ryan Fraser, Jamal Lewis, pretty good. Had some decent results. Newcastle as well. Mm-hmm. Bruce is trying to turn things around there. But I'm going to stop at Everton and say that I think he's noticed right away that they're not strong in the middle of the park. He knows what he wants. He's a world-class manager, and he brings in Alan, who's played at Napoli. If you've ever actually even been to Napoli on holiday, it's intimidating. Now, if you go and watch the football team, boy, you better have a stiff spine and thick skin to play for Napoli. It's not going well. And Alan reminds me of when N'Golo Kante arrived at Leicester and then to Chelsea and then did all his, like defensive midfield. And I don't want to use Street Fighter because that's unfair because he's a football player. But he's almost what Everton need. And he's exactly the reason why Rodriguez can do what he wants and Calvert-Lewin can do what he wants. And Everton look a different team. And then they bring in Doucouré, who's box to box. And all of a sudden, Gomez looks as though he's a 10 times better player than he was when he played with Sigurdsson and Tom Davis. And they played the other day, by the way, and I was like, I think Brighton can maybe turn them over. And all of a sudden, Tom Davis and Sigurdsson start doing the things they did before they got their good contracts.
Yeah.
Rodrigo, as a signing for Everton.
Rodriguez, yeah.
Sorry, I apologise. Rodriguez has been nothing short of sensational business by Everton. Sensational. He can create and he can score. And he's the player I think has been the best signing in the whole window because he's that good. And people were doubting him immediately because they were like, oh yeah, Rodriguez, remember, was he at Bayern and loan? And he was at Real Madrid, and remember, the World Cup, etc. The boy's different class. Absolutely sensational he is.
Yeah. Do you know what, on Alan, he reminds me of thinking back to, my old City days. He's Alan, so he doesn't need to be anyone else. But he reminds me of the power of Nigel de Jong in the tackle. He's got the brains of Fernandinho. He's got the passing ability of Jorginho, which for a defensive midfielder, he's the all-round unit, isn't he? I love it. He's got his shorts up by his nipples. He's old school. and as you say, he is that link to James Rodriguez that, is the guy that gets the assist before the assist. And then you've still got, those other players in the box that can finish. And the thing with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well, he's changed his game so much. And I was listening to an interview with him. He's been coached by Duncan Ferguson, someone you probably played against, who is a one-touch finisher. So if you watch Calvert-Lewin now, it's all about not taking a touch and finishing. And I'm interested to get your view on that as a striker. Obviously, heading's one-touch finishing, isn't it? But his headers and even his finishing with his feet now is one touch. Don't take a touch, just hit it straight away. And that's how he scored the majority of his goals this season. If
you're a striker, I scored one great goal that I had 10 touches and nobody else touched the ball, and I had to run from my own box all the way up and stick it in the back of the net. When the ball's in the box, if you have to take 2 touches, you're going to have to be rapid, quick, because you don't get many unless it's a quick control and a snapshot. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been working with Fergie, who was brilliant in the air, by the way, is A, your positioning, and B, your anticipation of the flight of the ball to make sure A, you can get up, and B, you can get enough on it. Because if you start here, the thing's going to be too high. You really need to, as a striker, especially if you're scoring goals. You watch Dominic Calvert-Lewin actually. His starting position is maybe back a bit and you're coming onto it more. A, gives you advantage on the defender, and B, your timing will be better. You can't just do it completely underneath all the time for sure. But nevertheless, he's looked really good. Alan, if we go back to your specific spot, he's not only good in what he does for the team, but for the defence. All of a sudden, Keane and Yerry Mina don't look as stretched and nobody's running onto them as much. So they look a more compact team. And then you throw Rodriguez in and just say, play, bring people into the game, get the ball, make yourself available, and make us a passing team and get the ball into that wide areas. And they've got players in Digne and Coleman, etc., that get into areas and get the ball in the box. And if Calvert-Lewin knows the ball's coming in the box rather than coming all the way back the way, he'll make the runs and he'll score goals. That's how good Everton have been.
Yeah. Look, the big question with Everton, and I was at the Everton-Brighton game, and Alan obviously was injured, and I was thinking, I'm worried for Everton here without Alan in the team because of how important it is. And Tom Davies had one of the games of his life, and Doucouré, who just slipped perfectly into the Allen role, and they still managed to do what they'd done so effectively in those 3 games before that. 4 from 4, talking about winning genuine. I heard Everton fans on the way to Goodison Park when I was driving on the radio saying that they hadn't been drinking, these people, saying that they can compete with Liverpool for the Premier League title. It's going to be fascinating because the Merseyside derby is the first game after the international break, which is going to be a hell of a game, given that they've just had the pants pulled down against Aston Villa. Look, the question is, Al, with Everton, is can these South Americans, and it has become a cliche, do it when these cold winter months come in around November, December, January, because it's all well and good, isn't it? Playing in 18, 19, 20 degrees, and James is playing the way he is, and Alan is playing the way he is. Those two are so pivotal that Everton are going to be dependent on those two performing like that over the next 6 months.
That's true. They've been in Europe for a long time, a lot of these players now. It's not as if they're coming directly from Buenos Aires and Rio and et cetera, in Sao Paulo or wherever else it is.
From Rodriguez,
South American, but exactly. But if they're not ready for it, they're going to have to get. I mean, it's already. So I'm looking out the window now, and temperatures have changed, and things. That lovely weather we had is probably gone and done and dusted now until we get to next April, et cetera. So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, okay, if you've never been to Burnley or Bolton or whatever it is, that's pretty cold in the northwest up here, they better get ready for it. But I don't think there'll be a problem. I genuinely don't. I think if everybody stays fit and the team's doing really well, I think they'll all be bursting to play. This like, does he fancy it at Burnley on a November night? Then I'm not a big. You'd be pretty shallow for a football player when your team's doing really well, all of a sudden not to try, because that's just weird. I think they'll be fine. I genuinely do. Whether or not they're going to be title contenders, they will. That is a completely different thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if they go and beat Liverpool convincingly after the international break, then that would be a story, wouldn't it? But just I want to pick you up quickly on that. So you're signing of the window. You've gone with Everton for your team, who've had the best transfer window over these 10 weeks, and you've gone for Everton with the best signing as well. So ahead of the likes of Gareth Bale, Ollie Watkins, who you touched on, there's a whole big list of players, aren't there? But Rodriguez for number 1, 29 years old. Listen to this, right? He has, under Carlo Ancelotti, I think I mentioned this to you last week, but obviously he won the title on loan at Bayern Munich under Carlo Ancelotti, won the title when he was a Real Madrid player with Carlo Ancelotti as well. There was a great stat about a combination with Ronaldo, and actually the last player to score back-to-back home consecutive hat-tricks under Carlo Ancelotti was obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the last one, but before that was Cristiano Ronaldo in 2014 at Real Madrid. And who assisted all of those goals? Played in all of those 4 games was James Rodriguez. So there's the connection straight away. And actually, James and Carlo together, working together, have this unbelievable record. I think he's been involved in something like 32 goals, so directly involved, whether it's an assist or a goal, in 36 games. He knows how to get the best out of this guy, doesn't it? And that's so important, having that relationship with the manager. You see, even when he substitutes him with 5 minutes to go, they have a hug, they have a little chat. They're on the sideline still talking, a little debrief while the game's still going on. That could be so crucial for Everton.
I don't think there's any question that the relationship between player and manager is kind of son and father, the way they go on, the fact that they've been there together. All those stats you're giving me there in my head, as soon as we come off of here, I'm going to put 50 quid on Everton to win the title, because things like, if we look back on this day and we go, remember we said this? And I'll be like, I can't believe we didn't bet Everton for the title. If we lose 50 quid, fair enough, I'm all right to do that. But those stats, sometimes you think, can they? Can they really? But there's no question that he will be a big part of it. I mean, I want to throw Spurs in, and I want to throw my old team, Villa, in, and I'm even going to throw Brucey in at Newcastle with the players that they've brought in. They've had a good window. But there is no question, the biggest, under no question whatsoever, the biggest impact has been the players that Ancelotti has brought in at Everton. And you could argue the fact that Rodriguez has been so far for me the signing of the window for sure. Yeah. And I think you'd be pretty tough to say that X, Y, and Z has done better. There's lots of players doing really well, but to change the fortune in a football team the way Everton were going, then Ancelotti's your man, and Rodriguez has been absolutely unbelievable. And if you get a chance to go and watch him, which hopefully we can say soon that people will get back into the stadium, then I don't think you'll be disappointed in the money you've paid to watch such a good football player.
Yeah, last Tim, I want to talk about this week out Burnley, and I want to get your views on this because I know you know Sean Dyche, and I know you know that football club very well. It's a great football club. I love going to Burnley.
Wonderful.
I love everyone at the club. It's one of my favourite places to go actually in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
But transfer window wise, we know that Sean Dyche hasn't been happy. We know that obviously, he would like to be making signings to push that club forward. It's not to take them to the next level because they're not going to get to the next level, but it's about making them compete. Because actually, I had a really interesting point from Rory Smith. I don't know if you know Rory, who's used to be at the Telegraph and the Times. He's now chief soccer correspondent for the New York Times. Yeah. Great guys on the Monday Night Club a lot with Chappers and Ian Wright. And he made a point. He said that statistically, and when you look at, statistics, and I know you can't read into a lot of things like expected goals and all this, but a club like Burnley should have gone down at least 5-6 seasons ago. He says that they're destined to go down, and they will go down when you look at the model of the club. And it is which is why he tips them every year. He says he loves Burnley, but he tips them every year to go down because of the way that they operate as a football club, their signings and so on and so on. He put it a bit more eloquently than that. However, Burnley have made 8 signings, right? They have actually made 8 signings in this window. But just looking at these players, probably one signing that is going to challenge for a first team place, which is Dale Stephens, and he starts. Yeah. You could argue that was a great signing for £1 million from Brighton. But there's obviously, and this is why you think Sean Dyche is going to be, walking away at some stage because of the policy that they've got. They've let 12 players go. They do it on a shoestring budget. They do it well. They're not going to be in debt. They could go down to the Championship. They could bounce straight back because they're not going to be in debt. So they operate well. Let me ask you this firstly. So Burnley, the window for the EFL clubs is later in October. So they could still sign someone from the EFL. Yeah. They're not going to spend 28 million quid on a player like Ollie Watkins. They haven't got that sort of money. You watched a lot of the Champ. So can you pick any gems out for Mike Garlick and for Sean Dyche that they could sign from the Championship that's going to, that they could be a first team player over the next couple of weeks?
I thought Ben Rama might be on his list, maybe from Brentford. Good player, wide areas, get the ball into the box. Is he a Sean Dyche player?
How much is he going to cost? I mean, is he not a £25 million player?
So what you're actually asking me a question that I can't possibly answer. I can give you names in the Championship.
Yeah.
That the Championship teams would all want 12 to 15 to 20 million pounds for, and Sean can't get it. To get Dale Stephens for £1 million, Brighton are happy to sell him, and unfortunately, listen, I have to reiterate. I think, and by the way, what Sean Dyche has done for Burnley, he probably should have got the Manager of the Year twice. And I'm absolutely honest to God.
Yeah.
They were down last year. They were down. And by the way, they are a reflection of him. Let's go. Come on. Not so much we're just so oppressed. It was more like, come on, let's show what people have got. We might not be the Rodriguez's and the Ronaldos and the Messis of the world, but if we're a team and we play and we'll get results. This is how it happened. He's been very fortunate with some very good goalkeepers. He's got Tarkowski, who I think they've kept. Am I right? I think they have kept.
Yep.
So that's good, because if he had gone as one of their main defenders, you'd be as well not closing the gates. That's unfair to all the other players who are giving their best for Burnley. But for him to go into the market and try and spend money, even if he gets the money he wants, he's got a problem to actually entice him to come to Burnley. Geographically, not necessarily. Are Burnley worldwide? They're in the Premier Division, but they're not a team that everybody's going to bust their neck to try and get to. And it's all been because of Sean Dyche convincing players to come to the club. and giving the best for the
Mm-hmm.
club. This will be a very difficult season for them. I don't think there've been enough in the window. I definitely don't think he's been given the money he wanted to spend. And even if he had 20 million, if you're talking to Sean Dyche, by the time he'd finished speaking to you, you'd probably think you wanted to sign for him and go and play for Burnley. It's really difficult. And all the good players that he's bought in, and unfortunately then have been poached away from Burnley, he's always managed somehow to turn it around. I think this year's going to be one too many for him. And that's why I always thought that I think Sean might walk. I think he might know, not that he won't be up for the fight, because he will. I just think for the first time in the summer, I heard the rumblings between himself and the board and the people that run it, not the same. It wasn't the same kind of smooth equilibrium. It wasn't the same conversations. He was much more critical when he did his interviews. And I just think this will be one season too many for Burnley. I really do. Because when you look at the squad and some of the good players they've got, everybody has to be at 98% every game. And that's almost impossible.
So to finish that little chat then, you've gone for Everton, best transfer window. Yeah. Are you going to go for joint worst, Burnley and West Ham, or can you pick out one of those? West Ham just brought in Tom Souček is the only kind of player that's going to be in the first team, and they made that permanent from Slavia Prague. Dale Stevens for Burnley. Both would have loved to have done more, and both might be tipped to struggle. I know West Ham have had a great start, but are they the worst two windows for you?
Yeah, I think so. And I say worst window for Burnley for the simple reason that I think the money that he's wanted to spend, he's probably not be able to spend it and get somebody to come to them. I would go West Ham because I think more's expected of West Ham. The money behind West Ham, I'm presuming they have plenty of opportunities to bring players in. West Ham, when you look at the squad, actually, West Ham should be all right, but there's something just not right at West Ham. So I'm going to put them in as well. I will add, when I said that Everton have the best, Everton not only had the best signing in, they managed to get rid of Walcott. What a result that was for them, getting him off the wage bill. Just come to my head. Sorry, Theo, but it simply hasn't worked, buddy. But maybe going back to Southampton will invigorate him. But Everton certainly top for me, and we'll need to go Burnley, West Ham. That didn't do just quite so well.
There we go. McInally's gone for best window, Everton. Best signing of the window overall, not just from Everton, James Rodriguez, and the worst window for old Sean Dyche and Burnley.
I hate saying that, but yeah, unfortunately, it just looks that way, unfortunately.
Right, Al, we've got to talk about Everton, and we've got to talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Sam Rosbottom's here from Betfair as well. Good to see you again, Sam. Look, I was at Everton against Brighton. They're going to win the league, aren't they? Well, that's what all the Everton fans were telling me. What are the odds, just out of interest, for Everton to win the Premier League? 4 from 4.
Yeah, they're unbelievable at the minute, aren't they? They're the form team, and I know we've only had 4 games. They've won all 4, but I think you look at the manner in which they've won those games. They've won convincingly. They've won like a team that you would say, win like champions 1-0, sort of tight, cagey. They've done it all in those 4 games. Currently, at the minute on the exchange, they're still 20-1 to go on and all the way and win the title. So punters still fancying Manchester City at the minute, believe it or not, at 8-5.
Really?
But just looking at that Everton price, they were matched at a high before the season of 1,000, which is 999-1. So if Everton do go on and go all the way, which it's looking, if you just take these 4 games, it's looking pretty good at the minute. There'll be some happy punters there.
I bet it's been flip-flopping, Al, isn't it? You after I mean, you guys in the offices at Betfair, it must be City losing 5-2, then you suddenly got, United 6-1, Liverpool 7-2. These tied. I mean, have City gone from favourites to second favourites to favourites already?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of movement. Obviously, Manchester City following their defeat against Leicester last weekend. Liverpool went favourites there, and like you said, it's flip-flopped again. But it has kind of remained pretty tight, really, between City and Liverpool. City did start the season as the sort of main favourites. They were really fancied, and then obviously that price has drifted out. Liverpool's price, similar as flip-flopped, but again it is looking tight. But Everton at the moment, they're on top of the tree, and it's looking like who knows, we could have another Leicester on our hands.
Al, do you think that DCL, as we have to call him now, if Kevin De Bruyne gets the KDB, he's got to have the DCL, hasn't he? Do you think that he's got a genuine shout of getting the golden boot? Because Danny Ings was in the mix, Al, last season.
Yeah, listen, he's done just brilliant. I mean, he's done just brilliant because I don't think that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is any different to Bamford or Ings, etc. I think they're under pressure all the time because people don't think they're good enough and will never actually get to the Harry Kane, Aguero, Messi, Ronaldo, that kind of status. But you can't fault the boy. The play, the best thing that's happened to Everton, I said this in the very beginning, was Ancelotti getting the job. He will change the way they play. He's brought two particular players in, and Allen and Decore, and everybody's got a stiffer back. They played the other day, and they had to start Sigurdsson and Tom Davis, who couldn't get in the team. And I thought, I wonder whether Brighton will turn them over. I've never seen the two of them play as well as they did. And it's not because of they're a better player now. It's because of the team and the way he's building the team. And it's the same with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And if the boy can't stop scoring goals, then obviously he's got a chance. But Everton would have to keep the level so high for him to be top goal scorer. I don't think he will, but he's certainly en route to 20 goals, which would be absolutely amazing.
Look, Sam, last time we spoke to you, I think, off the top of my head, you said it was down to something like 16s, but had shortened from something ludicrous. What is it now for DCL for Golden Boot?
Yeah, it just continues to shorten at the minute. He's second favourite now on the exchange market at 7-1 to go on and win the Golden Boot. Favourite still is Mo Salah. He's 4-1. Harry Kane just behind DCL at 17-2. So really, really interesting race there already on the market. Like you said, though, he was an absolutely massive price before the start of the season. 119-1. He was matched at on the exchange. So again, we could have some happy punters if he does go all the way. And I think you mentioned, Al, that he could get 20 goals a season. We've seen that in the past. Win the Golden Boot. So that's one to watch. It could be interesting.
Sam, there is no. Listen, if you get 20 goals this season, you might not be in the top 5. The way that the goals are coming in, with the decisions that are during the games, I'll be flabbergasted if Mo Salah doesn't get that and plenty more, and including Dominic Calvert-Lewin just might, and I include my hero at Arsenal that I bet him every year to be the goal scorer, and he's let me down a couple of times. But I just think I think it'll be tough, really tough for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I know we're past the deadline day, and I'm a little surprised that Everton went in for another striker. Because if you're relying on DCL on his own, I think you're putting a lot of pressure on the boy.
Well, that's fascinating, Sam, that he's already above Jamie Vardy. He's got, proven form in banging in goals, and obviously the award to go with it as well. Look, I'm going to put you on the spot with a couple others. So what about Everton for a Champions League place? Because look, they're not going to go there, let's be honest. But a Champions League spot, that could be realistic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The 13-5 at the minute on the exchange to get into the top 4, about 3.6. There's still the outsiders behind United, Spurs, even Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool. But, I think they're certainly in there. And, from what it's difficult because we've already mentioned it, it's only been 4 games. But from what we've seen from them so far, if they can maintain that level, which is going to be the challenge, there's maintaining that level. You'd expect other teams to pick up throughout the season and go on a bit of a run. But if they can certainly do that, then you'd think, 13-5 isn't a bad shout for top 4 if they can maintain that level.
Yeah, a couple other quick fire ones before we let you go, Sam. Al still thinks that Sean Dyche is going to be the first manager to lose his job, if not get sacked this season. Has it shortened for Mr. Solskjaer? Who's the favourite to go, and what are Solskjaer's odds? Yeah,
we certainly did see quite a bit of movement on the sportsbook market over the weekend. On Sunday night, it was quite a busy night for myself. Solskjaer has gone favourite to be the first manager to leave their post, also known as the sack race. He's now favourite at 2-1. Sean Dyche, Al's shout, is out at 5-1. Scott Parker 3-1. Slaven Bilic at 7-2. Just looking at that market for Manchester United, Poch is the hot favourite to take over there. He's 9-5 to be the next Manchester United manager. And just looking specifically at Solskjaer, we do have some Manchester United epic fail specials available on the sportsbook. Solskjaer to no longer be Manchester United manager by Christmas is odds on at 1-2.
Oh, wow. And just finally, Sam, what if any punters fancy a bit of a dabble on Mr. Edinson Cavani, the new United signing? What odds have you got for him?
Yeah, so Cavani, there's a lot of talk around him. He hasn't played a match since March. Is he going to be sharp? Is he going to be the player that we know from 5-6 years ago when he was, one of those hot sought after players? Who knows? But at the minute, we do have a special available for Cavani not to score or assist in the Premier League this season at 40-1. So if you're a bit of a pessimistic Manchester United fan and you're still upset from the weekend, then maybe that one's for you.
Good to see Sam. That's Sam Rosbottom from Betfair.